welcome to the latest edition of The Jump Show. It gives me great pleasure to be back. Sorry about the rather smartness of my attire, but I do have reasons for that. It's good to be back ahead of what is a tremendously good weekend of racing, I have to say. I think we're all salivating, me, Jake and Dan, about the prospect of the next couple of days. All the big stars are out, really, at least most of them are anyway. Time to say hello to both Jake and Dan. Jake, we'll start with you. I imagine you are champing at the bit, young man. And I hope that you caught up on your sleep from last weekend. I heard there are a couple of late nights for you.
Well, I'm not sure about the sleep. I've been studying the form all week, but yeah, absolutely buzzing. I don't think I've not been excited for a weekend in a long, long time. I think the racing across every card is just fantastic, and yeah, hopefully we can find you some winners to go along with it.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the main angle for us, the main port of call, trying to find a few winners and to help you along the road. And still on the unwell road, unfortunately, is Dan Overall, who hasn't quite recovered from what seems to be one of the worst lurgies ever to hit anyone.
It's just this time of year. It does me in every time. Every time I build myself up to a meeting I'm looking forward to, my body says, no, you will not enjoy yourself. And I went to Cheltenham. I was there for a couple of days. Great to meet so many of you who came up to us again. Fantastic to speak to you. Sorry about my rather poor form for the couple of days, but I took it steady. I was sensible. Got back on Sunday, thought, right, I beat this. And on Monday, I was dead again. It was just, and it's been the same all week. So it's been an absolute shocker. But as we say, a really good weekend of racing to get involved with. And thankfully, because I probably won't be leaving the house, I'll have nothing to do but be watching it. So really looking forward to it. And I guess the main overriding element of it is how much rain is going to fall. Because now we're at that time of year. We knew it was going to be 0 for most of the days so far this month. Now it could be any amount.
Indeed, one extreme to another. Today we're going to be previewing the first Grade 1 of the season, actually. It's the Betfair Chase. I don't know why in my head I think there's already been a Grade 1. I suppose there was in Ireland, but not over here. First domestic Grade 1. Please remember to like and subscribe to us. We'd love to hit 150 likes this week, so do get clicking that like button. It just massively helps us out. And you've all been really good at that, actually, this season so far. So thank you very much. We'd like to continue in the same vein if possible. Before we talk about the weekend's racing, we do our usual and look back at recent performances that have caught our eye. And there's a lot of racing actually to cover this week. And I'm sure that we've all got some decent pointers for you going forward. But Dan, let's start with you, shall we?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the Cheltenham meeting. Obviously, we previewed last week and we previewed the big race, the Paddy Power Gold Cup. Was a bit disappointing in Ginny's Destiny, to say the least. But I did mention one horse who I think I got pretty much bang on. So I'm going to pass it back to me from a week ago, who I think will explain the eye catcher I've got this week. The one who is the most interesting of the outsiders is Madara, just because there's all sorts of stuff going on with him, because he's now with Dan Skelton, he's now jocked up, had been with Kieran Berg at the start of the season, obviously was a very useful handicap chaser last season over 2 miles. Keep an eye on him. They'll find a race for him, whether it's December, whether it's January. The additions of this race, as we know, the form always creeps back up. He'll be out the back, he'll plot round, and we'll see. And yeah, I'd be keeping a real firm eye on Madara with a view to the future. Well put, me. A really concise argument made there. Couldn't have put it better myself. I think we'll be seeing him in the December edition, and I think he'll probably be the favourite for that race, and he'll have a massive chance.
Yeah, enjoying you calling yourself me rather than using the third person of Dan. That's very.
I mean, it's all bad regardless. I just try to make it as good as possible.
Very funny, I have to say. Jake, what about you then from the last 7 days?
Yeah, I had to ask for your permission for this one, didn't I, Tom? I know you're also a big fan of the horse, but Helen Wine made his chase debut the other day, and look, I'll be brutally honest. I was taking him on based on the fact that I'd heard a few whispers that he'd need the run, which I'll get onto in a minute. So I backed Booster Bob. Obviously, that went down the pan. His jumping went down the pan, but Helen Wine, on the other hand, he absolutely winged around, didn't he? He jumped beautifully the whole way around. Obviously, he's one of my handicappers I followed at the start of the season. I was very loath to be back against him. And he just came there to the last looking like, well, he's going to win by miles. They had that weird camera change, didn't they, where they had like a little scout camera by the fence. He jumped it perfectly. It pans back around to the run-in, and he's suddenly going nowhere and being beaten by Telepathique, who had the run, and she'd won on her previous start as well. So I wouldn't be too downbeat. As I said earlier, I think that he desperately needed that run. He ran really well despite of it. Obviously blew up in the finish, but next time out, he's so well handicapped. He jumps so well. He's going to be a really nice chaser in the making.
Yeah, I have to say I completely agree with that, Jake. You absolutely bang on because I really like Helen Vane as well. And I thought for a novice, he jumped almost impeccably, to be honest. And Warwick is a hard track to jump at the best of times. And for a first start over those fences, I thought it was really good. Wouldn't it be great if all tracks had that scout angle at the last? I mean, it really makes a difference, doesn't it? It's a proper good view. Helen Vane jumping at the same time as Telepathy. Telepathy was just too game, wasn't she? He needed that run, I think. But a really good performance nonetheless. Totally agree. I'm going to go to Carlisle with my thought. Epic West for Jamie Snowden, who won very, very easily on his hurdles debut. Was backed into 7-4 favourite to do so. Possibly not the strongest race in the world, but it didn't look weak. And it was more the manner in which he did it. He drew 7.5 lengths clear in the end, but it was the stamina that he showed in the ground I thought was really taking. Because that hurdle track at Carlisle, it's quite difficult to look impressive. Very few horses do, and if you do look impressive, it's usually on the bridle. The likes of Johnny Who over the last couple of years we've seen winning without coming off the bridle. But Epic West was a little bit different. Actually, just kept on finding the pressure and went further and further clear. So for me, he looks a proper stayer in the making. I look forward to seeing how he gets on when raised in grade. But I think he'll need a stamina test going forward. Okay, that's last week. Let's move on to the weekend's action, shall we? And it is the Unibet Morgiana Hurdle, which I think has got every one of us with saliva dripping from our lips because Lossiemouth, State Man, and Brighter Days Ahead. Sorry, I completely forgot the name of the mare then. There you go, I found it again. They've all been declared against each other, and it looks a proper barnstormer of a race this year, has to be said. Jake, come to you. If they all turn up, I mean, they've all been declared. We just don't know until the day, but it would be great to see, wouldn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. When I was doing the decks this morning, that was the first race I was looking for. Couldn't wait for the Morgiana decks to come out, and obviously we was really surprised to see that all three of them have been left in there. Leaves us with a great race. It is a bit annoying that on Twitter the first thing people are saying is, "Oh, well, he won't run both of them against each other." They've been declared for the race, for God's sake. Come on, let's get excited about it. If they don't, they don't. But let's get excited about it. It's going to be a great clash. And, it's made me move this race up the running order. We're going to do it last, but we're doing it first just because of how good it is. Look, it's going to be a tough race to have a strong opinion. I think my strongest opinion in the whole race is that I don't think Brighter Days Ahead will get near the Mullins pair. I know she's had the run, but the way she jumped the last day, if she jumps like that, she'll be absolutely nowhere compared to those two. So she'll have to brush it up massively. I think this is kind of Gordon testing himself because, he keeps on going on about how she could run in the Champion Hurdle. I think this will probably be the race that ends up seeing her go to the Mares Hurdle instead. But, we'll see how she goes. It's obviously exciting that she's there. Obviously, I think the race is between the top two, State Man and Lossiemouth. Paul Townend's gone with State Man, which is fair enough. You can't really go against the form that he's got in the book. I think at the prices and getting the £7, I probably would just lean towards Lossiemouth, but rather than it being a betting clash, I am really just looking forward to seeing these two go at it, and just to see what happens. It's going to be such a nice race, and it's going to be so informative to the Champion Hurdle and Mares Hurdle markets.
I mean, we all know the real reason, Jake, that you're siding, if you had to, with Lossiemouth is because I said earlier on that I'm probably in the State Man camp, so you need to go the other way.
This is also true,
yeah. Dan, come to you. I think the presence of Brighter Days Ahead is also interesting too, because Gordon's always gone on about how great a mare he thinks she is. If she is this good, as good as he thinks she is, now is the time for her to prove that, right?
Well, now's the time to give it a go. Obviously, she's had the run. It pretty much opens up the season for her. If she is somehow quick enough and good enough to win over 2 miles, then obviously the path completely changes and she'll be campaigned as a 2-miler. But if she runs a respectable third, they'll go back up in trip. It isn't the end of the world for him. So it's the perfect opportunity to try it. Obviously, and if you're going to get the better of them, it's probably going to be early on in the season, as we know Gordons are going to be more forward than Willies are. And the other thing that maybe swings it in her favour is the forecast. Now, if you look on the HRI site, they've got up to 30 mil of rain coming pre-race day. So that could drastically alter the going here. Obviously, it's currently yielding, but if it gets really testing, obviously stamina is going to come more to the fore, fitness is going to come more to the fore. That would be in her favour. Generally speaking, I'd agree with Jake. I don't think she jumps well enough. I don't think she's quick or slick enough to be a 2-miler. But if you are going to make a case for her, I think it has to kind of be ground and fitness dependent. Tactics will be interesting here. Obviously, we know Stateman's a pretty forward goer. Is he going to go solo in front, or will they get something like a Winter Fog or one of the outsiders to maybe tow him into the race? So we imagine Lossiemouth will be played patiently out the back with Patrick. Probably not right out the back, but within striking distance, almost stalking Stateman rider for a turn of foot, see if she's good enough. I didn't think we'd get this clash until the DRF. So if we do get it, it will be a massive indictment for the state of 2-mile hurdling, at least in Ireland. Obviously, because I know a lot of the races over here are pretty non-events, but this is a proper race to look forward to. Hopefully they all run. Hopefully it all goes ahead. I can see Stateman probably being a bit too good at Punchestown and Leopardstown, and just we know how consistent he is. He's a proper 170 horse. It would take another career best performance from Lossiemouth to beat her, especially first time out. I do think Lossiemouth's probably a better mare at Cheltenham than Stateman is at Cheltenham. So if they were to meet, I'd say if they're going to reverse the form, it would be there. But early on in the season, if you absolutely told me I had to have a bet on something, I'd go with Stateman. It won't be a betting race for me. I look forward to watching it, and hopefully they all go, and hopefully it's the race we will expect.
Okay, one thing's for sure, though. It is mouth-watering, that race. Hopefully they will turn up. And do comment down below with who you think is going to win, because we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Let's move on, shall we, to Haydock on Saturday. It's just a belting card there too. I'm going to start with a look at the 115. It's the Betfair Racing Podcast Handicap Hurdle. Big field declared for this, very competitive. So many in here that could easily turn out to be better than their current marks. It's the kind of race you kind of dream of. Interestingly, the horse at the top of the market at the moment is Beat the Bat, Jake, who hasn't been seen for 344 days, but he's taking on horses who are coming here with a recent run and in the shape of Camsinus, Josh the Boss, and Steel Alley, with decent recent efforts too, wins in a second. So he'll have to be pretty well handicapped, I think, Beat the Bat, and definitely fit enough to win this.
Yeah, good old Beat the Bat. I put him up last week for Cheltenham in a race where he would have had a great chance. For some reason, didn't get declared. I think he's one of the only non-runners we really spoke about on the podcast. So, that's life. But he's turning up here, and as you said, I think it's a much stronger race here. His mark of 132, I even questioned it when I was putting up the case for him last week. How well handicapped is that? Is probably just about what he's run to every time. So I don't think he's ahead of the assessor. I think he's pretty much bang on where he has always been. So he'll definitely have to improve to win this. And the horse that I actually really like is the top weight, although he's only rated 137. So that does say a little bit about the race. There are a lot of progressive types, but it's not exactly like a high class 140 at the top type of race. But Steel Ally for Sam Thomas, I think he's just such a well handicapped horse. Like, if you read his form, he was beating a neck by Doyen Quest, who's now rated 135, and he was trying to give him £12 that day. He's beating a length by Helm Wine and also the Greatwood second, Be Aware, who were rated 128 and 130 plus. Obviously, Be Aware will get reassessed off of that. And he was trying to give them £10 and £7 respectively. And then he was second in the Welsh Champion Hurdle last month when trying to give Lump Sum, who's now rated 141 £5 as well. So every single piece of form he's got in the last 3 runs is just really, really solid. This slight step up and trip to 2-mile free furlong, I think is going to be perfect for him as well, considering the way he finished out that Welsh Champion Hurdle. Like, he was staying on at the finish. Jumping the last, it looked like he's going to get beat about 10 lengths. And then in the end, on the line, he's only beating a length. So I think he's really well handicapped. Dylan Johnson's obviously taken off the extra £3 as well. So there's a lot to like about him. I can see why he's already been well supported in the market. I will also give a quick shout to Knight of Allen as well. He's obviously one of my handicappers to follow. He got dropped £3 for his opening effort, which he clearly needed, down to a mark of 120. I think if it turned into an absolute bog, then he's clearly got chances. I probably will have a small each way saver on him no matter what. But I think if it gets soft, the step up and trip is definitely going to suit. And yeah, he looks like another nice horse.
Yeah, got to say, Jake, actually, I quite fancy him in that race. Sorry, mate. It's my selection.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know. It's disastrous, really. For all the reasons you just said, but also the fact that I think he is well handicapped for 120. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a mark he can definitely exploit in a decent race. Whether or not it's going to be on Saturday, I don't know. I think the ground is quite key to him, as you say. Also, I think he does need to settle a bit better. He was pretty fresh, wasn't he, on his return? So I think
he was, yeah.
If he can a little bit less keen, keep those exertions till the end of the race, then 120, 10 stone 10. Yeah, I think he's well handicapped for sure. I know that obviously you think that too. Dan, what do you make of the race? The old friend Camsinus is in there.
They're certainly not finding easy races for Knight of Allen, are they? They try to make him concede a penalty to Wade out on his seasonal reappearance, and then they chuck him in this. Like, this is a proper handicap. I would say this will work out seriously well. As you say, we've got a lot of horses with recent form, Kamsnas being one. He was meant to go for the big 3 mile stayers race. I can only assume that they've had questions about with the ground probably turning quite testing. Will he really get 3 miles? Which I think was actually what we said when he went to Aintree, because they would target the 3 miles. I wouldn't really fancy him for the 3 mile race. So interesting, they've kind of changed plans and come here. Really high quality races. Josh the Bosch obviously represents the Silver Trophy form, which is working out extremely well. I would suggest he was the one in the right place at the right time and was gunned for it that day. So whether there's as much improvement to come from him as there were the others in behind, I'd be sceptical. I don't think Beat the Bat should be favourite. I think this is actually a much deeper race than the one at Cheltenham was entered for, and he's actually a shorter price for this, which I struggle to really get my head around. See, Knight of Ellen's got a good chance. Bowens Park is better than a Hark 122. He just needs to get his act together. See, Visor goes on for the first time. And when I can make so many reasonable cases for a few of these. That's how I can say it's a deep race. But I would be with Jake with Steel Ally as the main fancy here for all the reasons he's mentioned. I think just don't only add, the only other thing I would say is that his forward-going run style will lend itself quite naturally to Haydock. Generally, you want to be on the front end here. Obviously, Dylan Johnson's £3 claim gun in the gates, the £3 rise he got for the Welsh Champion Hurdle. I think with him, he's going to be in the right spot. And if there's maybe one or two, maybe a bit better handicap, which is possible, I'm not sure 137, despite his form, is absolutely a gift, because I think there's plenty in here with a chance. I think he'll be in the right place. It's a shame he's already been trimmed in a bit. I think he was 9-1 pre-declarations. He's now into 11-2, which slightly frustrating, but I can see why there's money come for him. And you'd have worse 66-1 shots than Don Levant, who I know is very old now and in the race of unexposed types who I've just mentioned. I think that does make a bit of appeal, and I will have to have something on that. So we know he's a formerly ultra-consistent high-class handicap hurdler. Obviously, he won the Big Stayers handicap here a few years ago off mark 135. Placed in very good handicaps off 142. Returned in the Gin Coco and Washington race at Chepstow after a weird couple of years where he was hated chasing. Then he had an injury, then came back at the start of the season. He's now dropped to a mark 125. And to be honest, I thought at Chepstow on his reappearance, he actually showed enough on 2 miles on good ground to suggest he still has plenty of ability. Obviously, this will be much more of a test and we'll find out a lot more. But back on softer ground, up in trip, we know he likes the track. He's extremely well handicapped on a mark 125. And when he's 66-1, I know obviously it's been a while since he's shown it, but he also hasn't had many opportunities to. Well, you can forget all the runs over fences, had the injury to overcome. He had been ultra consistent before then. He was never the type to really run a bad race. So if he still has that zest, at 66-1, I could see him coming for off the pace and at least hitting the places. So I'd be keeping an eye on him as well.
Well, you make a very good case, Dan. And Don Levant, a very, very big price. Hopefully will be caught in the wind himself. Also, just on that race, obviously I said Steel Alley earlier. I mean, that's totally embarrassing. Obviously, it's Steel Ally. So many.
It's not like it's your job, mate. It's not like it's your job at all.
I know. I tell you what, I was doing a couple earlier that were Gaelic pronunciations that were so bad. Andrew Blair White texted me saying, "What was that?" Let's go on to the Stayers handicap, shall we? You mentioned it earlier, Dan, the 230. It's a Premier handicap. Doyen Quest, top of the market, 3-1 at the moment. For the Skelton team, £5 well in after absolutely bolting up at Cheltenham. Catch him Dere for Dan Skelton as well. Tristan Durrell claiming the 3. And Dan's also got Gwenny May Boy in there as well. So a really strong hand in this very competitive handicap. Shoot First is there for Charles Burns. Emmett Mullins has got Back Me, Sack Me. That's definitely not how you say it, but there you go.
You're sacked.
There you go. Back Me, Sack Me. Let's go for that. One Big Bang, Kerry Hill, Patriotic towards top of the market as well. Dan, come back to you for this. Is it as simple as Doyen Quest is well in? He was so impressive last time. He just wins this.
Definitely not, because this is drastically different if the rain comes. Obviously, I think he's a good ground horse, predominantly. We've seen that in a lot of his form. He has run on soft and heavy, but they pulled him out on quite heavy ground before. And also the track. I mean, it's not a track which is really conducive to horses coming from off the pace. I mean, look at Crambo last year. A horse who was clearly thrown in off his mark, tried to come from off the pace, could only manage third. So if he's ridden like he was at Cheltenham, and on the ground that's going to be slower, it wouldn't be for me. Obviously, he did us a big favour. It was my strongest fancy of the week going into Cheltenham and well backed and delivered, but happy to let him go at 3-1 here. Again, this is a proper race. And when you've got even a horse like Twig at 66-1 as the outsider, who has solid handicap form, shaped pretty well, they're going for the Grand National, they've got nothing really to hide over hurdles. I think that's a sign that this is a really good race. A couple of bigger prices I thought were interesting were like to Push the Button, Fender with the points up to 3 miles. But the one who has come for a bit of support now was 20-1 when I looked at him. Now 14-1 is Patriotic. Now, I can't believe there's a second Evan Williams horse I'm giving a positive mention to in 2 races, because I see yard I so struggle with. I never really wrap my head around them. But we've talked about the Silver Trophy multiple times, and I generally think if this was trained by one of the bigger names, this was a Dan Skelton horse, he would be even shorter than his 14-1 price currently, because you look at his profile, he looks pretty tailor-made for a big field handicapped, and a yard can definitely get one right. Obviously, Dan Levant won this a few years ago, not too dissimilar in profile. Obviously, only made his rules debut in February 2024, second to a certain Western in the Park on that occasion at Fakenham. 2 horses who should not have been at Fakenham, to be quite honest. I'm not sure what they were really doing there. And then won next time out under Positive Tactics, and thereafter was kind of butting heads with good horses over trips way shorter than ideal. He was third to Panjari and Dartmoor Pirate over 2 miles. That was just never really going to suit him. Then he was second to Rathgold Boy. The horse who was 5th in the Aintree Bumper, second to A Dream to Share when Willie Mullins was coming over and just nicking random novice hurdles for the sake of it in quest of the trainer's title. And then he went to the Silver Trophy on his reappearance and finished a really good 5th. Now, if we made the case that Doyen Quest was held up in that race, which he was, well, Patriotic made Doyen Quest ride look quite aggressive. Like, he was properly out the back. He was only really going past beaten horses, going into the straight, still had lows behind him, hands and heels, ran on really powerfully, hit the line really hard over 2.5 miles on good ground, generously dropped £1 for that. We've mentioned how good that form is working out. So this will be his first run since. Crying out for 3 miles, I think, and has form on heavy ground, which is going to suit him. And if you look at the typical trends of winners of this race, I think he ticks a lot of boxes. Generally, you want younger horses. He's 5. The generally want horses only run at most 7 times over hurdles. He's had 6 runs. A lot of the winners in recent years have had good prep runs over shorter. Conditional jockeys obviously have a good record in this race as well. I think there's an awful lot to like about him. Only rated 120, and typically you'd be looking at higher rated horses who could potentially go on to better things. But I think with a lot of handicaps, the profile is changing because we don't really have that many high rated horses in the race. So I think the fact that he's lowly rated wouldn't really concern me. Still massively unexposed, and I think stepping up to 3 miles, connections know what it takes to win a race like this. I think he's a really good each way bet.
Yeah, great case made there, Dan, I have to say. Looking forward to this race immensely, like so many at the weekend. Before I get Jake in, I'm just going to put my thoughts forward, which aren't particularly long, but the one I wanted to mention, and it's completely ground dependent. If the rain doesn't actually come, I know it's probably going to, but if it doesn't come and it stays like it is now on the decent side, I think a massive price is Ottesini, because I was quite impressed with the way she won last time at Ayr from the front. And she's had a problem in the past with settling, but I thought she did settle quite well last time, and she ended up going well clear in the closing stages. Only up £4 for that, and ground is very important to her. She needs the top of the ground. But I thought 40-1, if the ground stays the same, is quite a big price about her. Jake, what do you make of the race?
Yeah, obviously Doyen Quest won really well last week. If as you just said there, if the rain somehow stayed away, I'd definitely have a saver on him, just because a £5 prize is clearly not enough to stop him winning again. He's obviously gone up 10 for the next time he runs. But the horse I've had quite a long-term view on, that, since the entries came out a couple of weeks ago, that this could hopefully be the race for him, is Kerry Hill for Ruth Jefferson. I really like this horse. Obviously, last season he was highly tried. On his debut, he beat Cadell, who's now rated 135 with the fences. That was his first ever start under rules. And then after that, he went straight to Cheltenham for a December Grade 2 Bristol Novices Hurdle, where he kind of travelled into the race really nicely into around 3rd place, then just looked at the hill and went, nope, not for me. I don't want that one, thank you. Ended up finishing in 4th place. Obviously, we've seen many horses do that type of thing at Cheltenham. We travel well to the bottom of the hill and then just not get back up it. I think you can forgive that, as next time he went on the flat track at Doncaster in January in the Grade 2 River Don Novices Hurdle, and he just bolted up, really. He beat Welcome to Cartrees, who's rated 130, beaten by 7.5 lengths. Really nice performance. Was going away at the finish. Really like what he did that day. Fortunately, his season got cut short at that point. He suffered a setback and missed his targets in the spring, which is a bit unfortunate. But the flat track at Haydock, I think, is going to suit him absolutely perfectly. That's going to be his playground, I think, and a mark of 137 shouldn't be enough to stop him, I don't think. I think he's a really nicely handicapped horse. Progressive. He's only had the 3 runs over hurdles. He's a point winner. I think connections will have graded aspirations with him in time, and hopefully this will be the stepping stone onto that.
Yeah, if there is one that's a springer who's going to go on, like Crambo, like Botox has, like Paisley Park, who's going to go on to better things, it's him. There's nothing else in here that has that potential.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with two such tremendously clever minds. Always good to hear your thoughts. Let's move on, shall we, to the big race on Saturday. It's the Betfair Chase 305. Grey Dawning's favour, Roll the Guy. Last year's winner in there, around about 4-1, 6-1 Ahoy Senor. Buick at 10s, Limerick Lace the same, Brave Man's Game at 12, Capadano 12, The Real Whacker and Gold Tweet. Cracking race in prospect, I have to say. I'm going to start actually with this one, just because I'm my biggest fancy of the weekend in this race. And you're probably all going to laugh at me because that's generally how these things go. But before I get to you guys, I really fancy the chance of Limerick Lace here. I think she's got a really strong claims. Jake has got his head in his hands already. Let me just go with my.
No. It's because I also agree.
Oh crap! Me too. Are you actually serious? Oh no. Yeah. So yeah, go on, Bully. Make the case. Apparently, we're all in agreement, which is
we're all in agreement.
Yeah. These haven't worked out well so far.
Nut.
But
do you know what though? That's genuinely really nice because we haven't talked before about this.
No.
And that is genuine, like we're all fancy independently. It's quite funny. I'll go first very briefly because you want to hear from the guys more than me. But I just think a track like Haydock is really going to suit her. She's a proper galloping type. She's a tremendously good jumper. The ground's looking like it's going to come in her favour. She wants kind of soft to heavy ground. That's when she's at her best. And I thought she really came into her own last season as the season went on. She beat Dino Blow really well at Cheltenham. Obviously was a little bit out of her depth and the test wasn't right for her in the Grand National. Probably came a little bit too soon. But she's a 7-year-old, the back end of a 7-year-old season now. She's coming into this off 153, gets weight from her rivals, which means at the weight she's pretty much up there, bang at the top, at least not far off it. And yeah, for me, I think the kind of test that the Betfair Chase usually is, it tends to reward a strong galloper and one that can travel well, and she has both those things. So she'd be a pretty strong fancy of mine in that race. Jake, I'll come to you for your case about her.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, first at the top of the market, you've got Grey Dawning there, and look, I can definitely see the case. Anyone who wants to back Grey Dawning, I can see your case. But for me, he's coming straight out of novice company, going straight into a Grade 1 Open company chase. He's also stepping up in trip, for the first time since Warwick back in January, won a Mickey Mouse race. He's a shiny new toy, but do you really want to be taking 9-4 or shorter about a horse who lacks the experience? We don't even know if he's this good yet. It's not the type of bet that I would be going for anymore. I think back in the day, I would have been all over this type of horse. Like I remember when Lost in Translation ran here, like he had a very similar profile. I would have been all over it like I was with him. But I think for me, I can definitely leave it. And yeah, as you said, Limerick Place is the one I landed on. As soon as she got declared, entered for the race confirmed for the race on Monday, I was just like, this has surely got to run. Thank God the rain has come so that she is running. She's got so much class. She was obviously second in the Troy Town First up last season, bolted up at Doncaster in a listed mares race, and then obviously won the mares chase at the Cheltenham Festival, where it was absolutely brutal conditions. It was horrendous rain that day when she was running. Literally just started right before the off, right the way through until the end of the race. She handled conditions perfectly, jumped really well, saw off Dino Blue, no mug herself. I think she's crying out for a test like this. I don't think the Grand National was the right place to go with her at all. I think that was a wrong decision. I think it was probably owner-led rather than trainer-led by the sounds of comments that have been made. But yeah, a 3-mile chase around Haydock on hopefully soft, potentially bordering on heavy ground. I think she's got everything in her favour, and she's 12-1. She's another horse who's got plenty of potential to improve, like Grey Dawning does, but she has more experience, and she's 4 times the price. So yeah, no, she's definitely the horse for me.
I'm just loving this. This is quality. This is one of the biggest jump show teams we ever had. Go on, Dan. Make your case as well.
Look, I don't need to add much more. I guess I think some people may look at the second in the Troy Town and think, did she really stay? Because she's really unexposed this time of trip. But what I would say is they rode her as if they weren't sure. She had to come from off the pace that day, got into the race, and ultimately the first and the third who she split were up there throughout. She actually ran admirably well under the circumstances. Grand National, as you say, bit of a write-off. She got really badly hampered early, never really got into a rhythm. She went off joint favourite for the National. Let's not forget that. She was really well backed for it, the best backed horse of the entire race. And I just went through the rest of them and thought she has to be, in a rare case of having a Grade 1 race in this country like this, you can actually get an each-way bet on. At 12-1, I thought she was the absolute standout. as Jake mentioned with Grey Dawning, look, I partly like him to win because it would be good for the division to have a horse like that who can properly go on to, we can talk in the same bracket as Factor File, Gallop and Deschamps and the like. But it's a really big ask for a horse who hasn't had the best first time out record. Obviously, they would have tried, but they've tried to run him in the Charlie Hall. They haven't got that chance to. So that would have to be a negative. Royal Pagaille, he won this race last year. If the rain comes in of his ideal conditions, injured after the Cotswold Chase. Look at last year's race, beat a Brayman's Game on the decline. Kayak Rambler, Post Grand National and Protectorate, who was kind of having a bit of a weird start to the season. This is a lot deeper. Ahoy Senor has the ability, always has. I just can't trust him to win big races. He just can't. He doesn't do it often enough for me to be such a short price. Hewick I'll always love. The ground looks like it's going to go against him. Capodanno has been so in and out. Won the Cotswold Chase. That race was awful. Brayman's Game is interesting because they've gone Blinker's first time in Sam Twiston Davis. Now, are they going to bowl him out in front and give him a big aggressive ride?
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
He's getting the tartar treatment.
Yeah, I mean, oh, geez, he'd be crawling over the line if that's true. It's that would be fascinating. I'm not sure it'll work, but I think at this stage of him, you have to try something different because whatever they're doing now isn't working. He's not the strong, travelling, smooth jumper he used to be. So why not mix it up? I always admire them trying something. Real Whacker probably wants quicker ground, and Gold Tweet, I mean, they seem unusually confident, but I think that's probably Sweet David bias. Like, I mean, I know they've had a lot of success recently, but in any real terms, he should be massively outclassed by these. All points Limerick Lace for me. I think she's a great price at 12 to 1 each way. And yeah, now there's a lot of pressure on this race all of a sudden.
It's
you
what
won't
we
be
do.
going off 12 to 1.
Oh, great stuff, lads. Looking forward to this immensely now. I was already looking forward to it loads, and now it's just added an extra element. I think we're all in agreement, though. Limerick Lace is the bet, and Grey Dawning could be the star, potentially. But we shall see. On to the 340 is the final race at Haydock on Saturday. It's a handicap chase over 3 miles at 1.5 furlongs. Take Your Time is the favourite at the moment for Nichols and Gingell. Lamilos, Fontaine Calange, Credo, Hititi, Dare to Shout, Monbeg Genius, etc., etc. Dan, come to you again. It's a bit of a theme, isn't it, at Haydock on Saturday, that the handicaps seem to be generally very competitive.
Yeah, they've all stood up pretty well. Obviously, this is, I guess, the result of a lot of horses not running because of the ground, and all of a sudden rain's predicted. You get these quality handicaps. I think Haydock, top to bottom, is a brilliant card. Really looking forward to that. Probably bits up more than Ascot, I would say. Take Your Time has to be the wrong favourite here, surely. So in and out, and usually winning it, running in worse races than this. I think Lamilos has to be the favourite, in my opinion. I'm surprised he isn't. I imagine he may well be. I think the likes of Credo might be well backed as well. But it would be Lamilos for me. Obviously, this looks an awful lot easier than the type of races he's used to be running in recent years. So he does come with a burden of 12 stone, but I'd always take the class over the weight any day. Last season was a bit of a non-starter. Obviously, I think they said he had surgery at the start of the season. They sent him back over hurdles, and fundamentally, he's just a much better chaser. And the only time we actually saw him over fences was the Bet365 Gold Cup, where he ran really well. Down to a mark 144 now, £2 low than when winning the Coral Gold Cup a couple of seasons ago. He's actually only had 5 handicap chase starts for the Skeltons. Obviously, won the Coral Gold Cup, one before that, running the National where he didn't say, and then was 7th at Sandown, and his reappearance run at Cheltenham where they said he badly needed the run. So he actually remains pretty unexposed in this kind of contest for that yard. They were very adamant that he looked like he'd need the run at Cheltenham, shaped like he would. He's never run at Haydock, but I think this track will really suit him, bearing in mind, obviously, how he's performed at the likes of Newbury. The thing is with him as well, it doesn't matter how much rain comes, so little how much. He's very ground versatile, so we'll love that. I just think he's got an absolutely great chance here. I mean, he's always a horse who's threatened to win another big race. I think they'll probably struggle to find a better opportunity than this.
To be honest, Dan, I mean, my look at the race, I came out on Lamilos too. I mean, it's not a strong fancy at all, but I think he's so well handicapped now, isn't he? He just draws your eye. Like he's the class act in the race, as you say. This is easier, and he's off £2 lower than when he won the Coral Gold Cup, so it makes a huge amount of sense, really. Go on then, Jake. What about you?
How have we ended up on a double teamer steamer? This is not good.
This video will be pinned or deleted. No middle ground.
We're either having the day of all days or all in the dumps together. Yeah, not much more to say. Lamilos, I mean, I said it before his last run at Cheltenham, where, in October, I said I would have fancied him for the race, but then I read the stable tour from Dan Skelton saying that he desperately needed the run. He travelled down to the third last, tanking down the hill, and then just found nothing up the hill. Just plugged along at the same pace, finished 5th. So if he's come off with a run like he should have done, then every reason why he can win this. As you said, Tom, he's now lower than his last winning mark in the Coral Gold Cup for the first time. And yeah, everything's in his favour to run well. The only one I will mention, I guess, just so that we've got someone else mentioned in this race, is Fontaine Collonges is in here. She was a horse that me and Dan really wanted her to run last year. For some reason, she didn't turn up. But yeah, she's in here this time. She looks like she would have a decent enough chance, but the only problem I'm having at the minute is Venetia Williams' horses looking like they really need the run. They're not in their normal November, winning everything state yet. So that would be the major negative for her. But yeah, Laminos for me, I think he's got a cracking chance.
Lovely stuff. I mean, I couldn't emphasize this enough. I am absolutely loving this.
We'll come back to you in 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's move on to Ascot, shall we? A couple of grade twos, flanking what's another really good card, it has to be said. We're going to start looking at the 130. It's the Copybet 1965 Chase, grade 2. I'm going to come to you, Dan, with this first. Look, we've got Pic D'Orhy here, 161 rated. It's got to give a bit of weight away, but he's got to give weight away to Phlegmatic, Hidden Depth, Dashel Drasher, who's now 11, and Le Patron, who's coming back from a 254-day break. And when we last saw him, he was pulled up. Is it just a case of you've got to jump around?
I think for the most part, yeah. I mean, the market will tell you that. It's shame Jello didn't turn up. I think he was about 15 to 8 and in Ante-Post market. So there's expectation he would run, but clearly other plans in mind for him. Obviously, Phlegmatics wants to keep an eye on. He's just kind of getting runs under his belt at this stage. Headgear's still off. Just watch him. He'll be popping up in a handicap. When those cheek pieces go back on, it will be game time. The only thing you'd say about Pic D'Orhy is, I think you go back to this race last year, and after the incident with Shishkin at the start, it looked like a bit of a formality. He actually didn't, for a stage, it didn't look like it was going all that well. Like, he wasn't as smooth as he normally is in the jumping department. Strawfan Jack came to him on the outside. And for a brief spell, you're looking, yes, indeed, yeah. Is he still running, mate?
Yeah, he's still in, yeah.
There we are, yeah. Now you know my pain. Doesn't matter. Ground doesn't matter. He's going to run a stinker whenever you back him. I know that's the horse he is. But he came to him as if he might actually put up a race. In the end, Pic D'Orhy kind of swatted him away, but I don't think he was at his best that day. Obviously, pulled up in the Melling we were last seen. I'm not sure there are too many excuses for that. He's had Witten surgery again. Look, he's 9 going on 10 now. I think it would probably have seen the best of him. I mean, does he have to be at his absolute best to win this? Of course he doesn't. But I mean, that would be enough to kind of buoy up optimism from saying 1 to 2 is an absolute certainty lay in. I mean, Dashel Drasher, we know is capable, generally needs his first run, but has been a non-runner multiple times. So he's probably had a bit more time to get ready now than he has in previous seasons because he's starting later. Le Patron, I think, kind of buggered his season by winning that early season grade 1, and he meant he was in really top company and he wasn't handicapped. I think they're going to struggle with him for a while, maybe just get his mark down in time. He'll be handicapped. In theory, Pic D'Orhy should just dart up in this and go around from the front and win quite comfortably. Won't be a race I have a bet in. For interest, I'll be keeping a nice eye on Phlegmatic, watch him finish 35 lengths on 4th, and we'll be seeing him soon in the handicap with cheap pieces on.
Good stuff, Dan. And Jake, for you, Pic D'Orhy going to win?
Yeah, Dan, we'll be playing that clip of you saying Phlegmatic in the eye catchers next week.
Oh, yeah. That's what I do. I lay out about 4 horses and how they're going to run just in case they do it. It saves my voice next time.
Yeah, and your voice is very precious, so we do need to save it when we can.
And fragile.
Obviously Pic D'Orhy should win. Don't need to tell you much there. It's a shame, as Dan said, Jello's not in here because it would have been fascinating them against each other. But I think Le Patron is the one that I'll just be keeping an eye on to see what he does, because as Dan said, maybe they're trying to get him handicapped. Maybe they do have bigger aspirations and this will be a good starting point. But either way, I'll be watching very closely to see what he gets up to.
Yeah, Pic D'Orhy for me, I have to say. It's not exactly a stroke of genius, is it, to say that? Right, we're going to bypass 205, which were the worst race planning decisions ever. Was the London National, the Berkshire National, wasn't Sandown now. Ascot, don't know why they've done that. Past that with anger. On to the 245. The Howden Ascot Hurdle Grade 2. This is an absolute belter, it has to be said. We got Golden Ace at 9-4 market leader, Blue King Daru in there, 130. Then we got Thunder Rock, Lucky Place, Salva, and Colonel Mustard in there as well. So a proper belting Grade 2 this is. I'm a huge fan of Golden Ace generally. I hope she can do it. But it's going to be a stiff test of her credentials, that is for sure. Jake, come back to you for this. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, as you said, it's a lovely race. This is one to get properly stuck into. And to be honest, I'm all over Golden Ace around 94, 2-1 type price. She's obviously rated 144. She gets the £10 from Blue King Daru, gets weight off the others as well. Like, if she's as good as she's looked in the Mares Novice and that start at Cheltenham in April as well, where she went over 2.5 in a listed race, on the day absolutely bolted up, but she's beaten 2 horses that have won really nice handicaps in the spring, in the autumn so far as well. Like, if she's as good as all those performances look, I think she genuinely is a live chance in the Mares Hurdle. Like, she's one definitely on my radar as it stands right now. I think she's a really strong traveller. She's got that bit of pace as well. Like, if this turns into a sprint, like she'll just be powering away from them at the end, I think. If it's a strongly run race, then she'll travel into it and we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, I'm all over Golden Ace. I think she's a really nice mare. I think the only issue I have is that she had a bit of a setback earlier in the autumn, and that now they've just got her back for this. So that's the only little niggling doubt I have is does she need this run? If she does, then obviously that's going to be really unfortunate. But if she's ready to go and as good as she was in the spring, then I think she's going to take some beating here.
Jake, just on her, do you know what price she is for the Mares Hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival at the moment?
It's 10-1 last time I looked, which
that seems massive to me.
It is decent, yeah. But obviously, if she goes and wins this, she's really going to lay down a gauntlet, and that's going to be what, 8-1 minimum, probably shorter than that as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing her. Can't wait.
Yeah, me too. I thought she was. I just thought, Dan, she was probably for me the star of last season in a way. I think arguably because it was Jeremy Scott, and obviously he wouldn't have had a really, really good one for some time. And taking on the big boys in that Mares Novices Hurdle, where we thought Jade de Grugy and Brighter Days Ahead were going to lock horns between the two of them. But actually, to go and see Golden Ace usurp both of them, it was just wonderful, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, because they both had an eye on each other, and then they realised this Jeremy Scott filly, who they kind of disregarded, is just there absolutely travelling all over him. And I think the reason you like Golden Ace as well, didn't you do an interview with Jeremy Scott like the week after?
Yeah.
And he got like a load of interactions and love because it was a really good piece. Yeah. So
well, it was everyone was chanting Jezza at Cheltenham. So I said, how did you feel with everyone chanting Jezza? And he absolutely loved it, to be fair.
Yeah, there you go. Professional bias taking into effect there. No wonder you love Golden Ace. No, look, she's the one to beat. If she turns up in anywhere near top form, she's the one to beat here. I mean, I'm looking down the list. Blue King Daru obviously won this last year when Strong Glance decided didn't really fancy to win. Like, he came there, threw the race away. Never really liked Blue King Daru. Obviously, I know a lot of people quite keen on him, maybe as a staying hurdling prospect. I think the only time he was actually in races that were competitive, he got stuffed in both times. So he won the 4-year-old hurdle at Cheltenham, then got lucky in this when Strong Glance didn't fancy winning. Oh, Thunder Rock, what are you doing here, my friend? You should have won the West Yorkshire hurdle by 15 lengths. One of the best 10-1 losing bets I'll place all season. I wouldn't really be interested in him here on ground that's going to get softer at 2.5 miles against a better caliber of horse, in my view. Lucky place. I thought he'd go chasing with him. The one at a bigger price who is interesting is Salva, because the juvenile form is so solid. The more rain, the better for him. I think it's been quite downbeat, the comments about him from the yard, which, I mean, Gary Moore wouldn't normally be shy about saying one's decent when they've got one, but they seem pretty, almost adamant this horse needs a swamp and is slow. But I mean, he was a cracking juvenile last season, did very little wrong. So he third in the Triumph Hurdle, rallied really well, 2.5 miles will suit him. He's the interesting one, and probably one for Weather Watch. If it does look really testing out there, then I'd say he's the danger to Golden Ace, and almost his resolute staying ability will almost counteract her speed. So it depends on how the race pans out. We may well suit one or the other. Not going to be easy for a 4-year-old in a race like this, but I think he looks a pretty forward-going, mature 4-year-old, really. I say Golden Ace is a fair price, I think, at 9-4. If you do fancy, I wouldn't really put you off her at that price. It's bearing in mind the caliber of horse she may well be facing down the line. If, say, she's 10-1 now for a Mares Hurdle, and she's 9-4 for this, and her opposition come March could be Lossiemouth and Brighter Days Ahead, kind of think you have to think 9-4 is a pretty fair price, really.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I've got to say, sometimes listening to both of you is like listening to a song. It's just lyrical, the way you talk about horses.
One for the radio and maybe occasionally played.
One for hits music. Let's go on to the 320, shall we? It's the Hurst handicap case. Before we get stuck into this, a bit of inside information which might or might not amuse you at home. I went to see Noel George in Chantilly last week. Obviously, very sad about Il Est Francais. We might not see him again. Hopefully, we will, but it doesn't look particularly like it at the moment. But I was there, went through a lot of his other runners. And Marvel de Cerisi, he nominated as going for this race, and he told me that he's superbly handicapped off 136. And he said to me he's probably going to win. So very much looking forward to that running, 13-2 at the moment. James Reevely on board. Look, I'm sure that in the embryonic stage of his career, which he is, you tend to get bullish, and I'm sure that's very fair given the fact that he's been so successful so far. But that he did seem to think that Marvel Desirisi is incredibly well treated. So just a little bit of inside info for you there. Dan, what do you like in the race?
And you can go back long enough. I mean, he looks fairly handicapped, but again, as you say, early years of a training career, the bullishness. Sometimes it doesn't go out of you. I mean, look at Nigel Twiston-Davies, for example. Like, I mean, he's long in the tooth, and every horse he's got is a Gold Cup horse, so it doesn't necessarily leave you. So we'll see how Noel's pessimism develops over the years. Look, Martetour last time out was extremely impressive. And you go back to him, he was actually a very high-class horse back in France. Like, his improvement in handicaps hasn't come out of nowhere. Like, he had a lot of back class before he came to Venetia Williams. I think he's more than capable of winning again off Mark 140. Charlie not being on, I think, does present a question. I mean, Ned Fox, obviously, a fine conditional, but Charlie Deutsch, I think, has a special way of getting the best out of Venetia's horses on most occasions. So, despite, obviously, £5 coming off as a bit of compensation, I think if Charlie Deutsch was riding, I'd say that he'd probably be shorter because I think he's drifted out to near 11-4 now. I'd say it'd be close to 2-1 if Charlie was on. Probably won't be a race I have a bet in. I do think Saint-Bréret will set a target for them to aim at because we know what his run style is. Brilliant jumper from the front. The softer the ground's going to suit him. Ran well in the Holden Gold Cup for a long way. There aren't really horses in here other than potentially Martetour with the class of a Jello or a JPR1. He will probably, I mean, he wouldn't be a bad each way bet at 11-2, 3 places because I'd probably be hard to shake him out the 3 given his run style. And if he jumps well in front, I'm not sure 3 will pass him in the straight. Not a race I'll probably ever bet in because I think those behind lack a fair bit of appeal from my perspective. So can see Martetour winning again, and he won't. I don't think he's reached his ceiling based on the way he won last time. If I was going to have a bet, it would be Saint-Bréret each way at 11-2.
Okay, on that actually interesting, Dan. You say going from the front should see him in good stead. I do wonder. Harper's Brook led from the nose last time, first half of Dan Skelton, and was held up in rear. I do wonder if they're going to switch back to what he usually does and go forward with him because. It was last year, wasn't it, when he got beaten on the line by Triple Trade, having pulled himself up. But we saw mostly, didn't we, that he went from the front last year. I just wonder if Dan Skelton might think to himself, well, let's just see what we could do with him from the front, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he bled last time as well, so I think he's got many an issue as a Harper's Brook. I think every race is almost an experiment at this stage. You never really know what you're going to get with him.
No, but we do know what we're going to get from Jake Price, and that is a very sound argument. So go on, Jake. What do you like in this?
Yeah, back to the strong opinions at Ascot. I'm all over Saint-Bréret. I think he's got an unbelievable chance here. I really liked him, obviously, for the Red Rum last season, where he made all under Bryony Frost, a great ride. He ended up beating Saint-Roy that day, who's now rated 162, beat him 4 lengths readily. Like, it was a hell of a performance. They tried turning him out of air afterwards, and I think it's fair enough that he didn't quite run up to the same type of level. I think that that's quite a quick turnaround, but he came back to the Holden Gold Cup last month, set out his stall again, and I think the only thing that really beat him was the good ground. He really does need softer ground. It was quick, that conditions at Exeter that day. Obviously, we ended up having a walkover even in the novice chase due to non-runners because of the ground. So I think it was very sporting that they even ran there. Obviously, Bryony got her ride there. She finished in 3rd place. I think that was very good, behind JPR1 and Jello, 2 very nice horses. I think his mark of 139 is still so lenient if he gets his conditions. Obviously, it looks like we're going to get 9 to 10 mils due at Ascot on Saturday at the minute, so that's absolutely perfect for him. Every drop that he gets will be absolutely ideal. And Harry Cobden has just been mustered from the front over the last couple of weeks. Like, he had a couple of rides at Warwick the other day where he just went from the front, like Telepathique that we mentioned at the start of the show. He's just been so good from the front. So I think that it's a positive that he finally gets to go on Saint-Bréret. He's been on him before, but back when he was really learning his trade in Britain. So now that he's got a winning chance, I'm really happy that Harry Cobden's back on, and I just think that he's a really nicely handicapped horse who hopefully is going to bounce on from this and go to higher levels.
Good stuff, Jake. That is the 340 Ascot. Come straight back to you, Jake. Actually, rest of the weekend. Anything else you fancy?
Yeah, I've had to narrow this list down and then narrow list down again because there is so many races this weekend I could, have a strong opinion on. But I've got five, so that's my short list.
Jeez, Jesus. How long was the first list? What above?
Too long, too long. So I'll go from as quick as I can. 12:55 on Saturday at Ascot is the 3 mile mares handicap hurdle. She'd want to be a big enough price now for me to get involved, but Midnight Reflection is in here, last year's winner. She won this last year off 122. She's also won off marks of 121, 129, and 120 in the past. She's been a very admirable mare, reached a peak rating of 134. She now finds herself on the lowly mark of 114. She had a spin around Ludlow 16 days ago, which is actually the exact same distance he had before winning this race last year. She also had a spin 16 days before. Charlie Case takes off a further £7. Look, as I said, I want her to be a big price, but if she is a big price, I'll be getting involved because it doesn't look like a very good mare to handicap hurdle, and she clearly likes the course and distance, so should be a play. In your London National, that's now the Berkshire National race, Kitty's Light's in there. This was the race they highlighted him for the start of the season. Even before he ran at Chepstow, Christian Williams said that this is the race they're going for first. He was been sent off 40-1 on his next two starts. So I think that tells you everything you need to know about what they were doing in those 2 days. Back down to a mark of 140 now, which is his last winning mark. And again, that man, Harry Cobden, is booked for the ride, which is obviously very eye-catching. Last one on Saturday, the 2:38 at Huntingdon, is Unbraden Fazza. One of your Gaelic pronunciations, is that, Tom? He looks to have a good chance. His form is starting to look quite nice now. He was only 6.5 lengths behind Burdett Road in the Triumph Trial that obviously was this time last year. And he was 8th behind Helmwine in that Sundown Holy race as well. So he weakened up the hill last time when the flights were taken out at Cheltenham in the Macedon Holdings Hurdle, finishing 6th place. But he's now on a mark of 122, going down to Class 4 company. I think he should take all the beating there. Then I've got 2 on Sunday. Majestic Force is in the 2:40 at Cork. She looks like a really nice mare for Henry de Bromhead. Obviously, she had only a second start over hurdles in the Mares Novice, where she finished in 5th place. That was obviously a hell of an effort. I think she's got a lot of talent. She looks like a chaser. She's already a point winner, which she won by 28 lengths, but no less. And I think Zenta's probably going to be running here, making the market. So look, she should be second fav. And Zenta should be short. So hopefully we can take her on with that. And then last one, I think Dan will probably end up mentioning it, but the 2:15 at Sunday at Exeter is Issam is in there. He's 2 from 2 over this weird 2.5 mile, 2 mile, 2.5 furlong trip. He also ran in France over the same trip as well. So it's clearly a trip he enjoys. He won off 115 and 120 last season. He's up to 129, but the last day he was 4th in the Welsh Champion Hurdle, which was a really nice run, staying on well at the finish. So if he goes to that race, I think he'd have a hell of a chance.
Great stuff, Jake. Well, if your notebooks aren't full after that, then let's hear what Dan fancies for the rest of the weekend.
Well, if they aren't full, then Jake can just publish the full list in the comments below or on Telegram, which will probably take a lot of time to read. On Issam, I would have mentioned him as well. I think it's a decent enough race, but obviously we're doing it pre-Dex. I'm not sure how many are going to turn up, but has an obvious chance. On the 12:48 at Huntingdon on the Saturday, Lilting Verse made her chase debut behind Alfie's Princess and Smiling Getaway. I think that was a strong race. Both 2 nice mares going forward, I think, for chasing. We finished in front of her. She came from off the pace, jumped well, looked as if she'd improved for the run. She's up to 3 miles here, a trip she's bred to appreciate. Still very lightly raced, and this looks significantly weaker than last time. And just a race to note, the 11:30 at Punchestown is a 3-year-old maiden hurdle, won last year by Mighty Bandit. Had the Certain Lark in the Morning, finished second hit last year. Joseph and the Mole Ryans have an 83 rated flat horse called Naturally Nimble, entered this year. Big field. Look for some eye-catching runs in behind, I would suggest. I think there'll be plenty in that race to take out from it. But that's it for now. I haven't had all that much time to go through every other race as of yet, but there'll be plenty to get stuck into. And if anything else pops up on the Sunday, or indeed later on the Saturday, I'll probably put it up on my Twitter, I imagine. Yeah,
great stuff, Dan. I'm going to keep my binoculars on for both of your selections there and keep a lookout. I'm just going to put up 2 just to keep an eye on really Cloth Utopia's one, 12:25 at Ascot Saturday. Another one for Noel George. And he mentioned that he's either going to win the Supreme or the Ballymore. So you'd think he'd be winning this race.
That's nice. A nice problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. So he should be winning this race for the JP McManus team. And James Reevely's come over for the ride. So that's good. And then the other one, actually, I'm taking on Jake in the 238 Huntingdon. So there you go. Jake, yeah, I know, mental.
All the races.
Extraordinary. I just thought Magic 7 looked a pretty much a cert. So now that you said that about Anne Brendan Fisher, I'm now a bit of a nervous.
No, go on, stick to your gumptions. I want to hear why he's a cert.
Well, I just think it's a really weak race, to be honest. I thought Gold for Alec might be a danger, considering Get a Lead, the horse that beat him last time, won today at Wincanton. Apart from that, and of course, Anne Brendan Fisher, I didn't think there was too much in the race. So Magic 7 to follow up that win extra last time. Hopefully the ground will stay in his favour as well. He wants on the sharper side. Good stuff, guys. We've trotted through that. Rated knots, but it's really good to talk to you both about what is a cracking weekend's racing, I have to say. The blood is pumping, the nerves are tingling, and the excitement's jangling.
You're running out of cliches there. I can see your mind looking for the third one.
You know what? It's because I've used them all on the screen today. Stay down.
Save them for us, Bully. Come on.
No, I need to. Please do remember to like and subscribe. We'd love to hit that 150 like button and get more subscribers, because we recently reached the 2,000 mark. That was great, and we'd love to keep on going on that. So please do get involved if you haven't already. And comment down below in the comment section your best bet for Ascot or Haydock, or indeed what you think is going to win the Morgiana of Punchestown, because that, as we say, is an absolute belter of a race. Next week we'll be back to see the previewing the Coral Gold Cup, one of the best handicap chases of the season, and could be a proper barnstormer this year. So until then, it's goodbye from all of us here on The Jump Show.